My name is Mario Ubalde. I'm the Director of Customer Success for SizeUp. And very excited to introduce you to SizeUp Pasco and the powerful tool for you. I do want to provide a little bit of context before we get started. And this is going to be a live demo, so I promise I'm not going to have too many PowerPoint slides for you, but I do have them prepared if you have questions about that. But what I want to talk about is what's happening right now. We have a surge of entrepreneurship that is unprecedented in the US. And to put that in perspective, I want to show you some of that information. So let me just get my PowerPoint going. And I'm going to share that data with you. So hopefully everyone's seeing my screen, and you can see that these are the business formation statistics in the US that's happening. So we have a surge of entrepreneurships that is unprecedented. The real challenge with this is, where are we going to be in about 5 years? And so what I'm showing you here are failure rates for new businesses within the first 5 years. You can see it's almost 50%. But you're going to notice that within these wedges, there's two distinct elements to what is happening. There are businesses that die a natural death. So these are people who are trying to sell horseshoes when people move to cars, or they're trying to rent DVDs when people have moved to streaming media. Those are natural deaths. However, about 2/3 of businesses that fail because they don't have the right information. They're not prepared to succeed in the current environment. And that is what the investment by the Pasco EDC has created for your local businesses and for agencies that are supporting these businesses. The ability to be competitive with national businesses that would use this information in a similar way. The Starbucks, the McDonald's, the Amazons, the Walmarts. You are now competitive from a data perspective. Execution, of course, still extremely important, but we can help you compete from a data perspective. And so that's what SizeUp Pasco is created to do. And it really does it in a couple simple ways. One, it's online 24/7. Oftentimes businesses are so busy running their business, servicing customers, creating product, they tend to engage with this type of information after hours and on weekends. The second thing is that it needs to be simple to use. You may not have back office HR, right? You don't have a business analyst or some person who has an MBA or a degree in quantitative statistics. So we've made it really simple to use. And most importantly, we know that you need to be able to work both online and offline. So any of the reports that you're seeing, and we'll see this in a little bit, that you're doing online, you can actually share those offline. You can take that information, put it into your business plan, your SBA loan application, or anything else. So that's a little bit about the context of the tool. And now what we want to do is show you that. I'm going to prove to you how simple it is to use. And then it's as simple as asking Q&A at the end, so I can share with you any answers, questions that you may have. So I'm going to get started. This is the tool. It's also available via Smart Start, but this is the tool here on the Pasco EDC website. And we only need to know two things: the industry that you're in and where you are either operating your business, or in the case of an entrepreneur, where you're thinking about operating the business. So you can go to any category. So we could look at restaurants, and we could look at it again, just about anywhere, from the smallest community to larger communities, wherever you're thinking about doing your business. And you notice that we have restaurants here. SizeUp is designed to support as broad or as deep of an industry category as you're interested in focusing on. So we could look at revenue and say, what do we think the average restaurant's making? We could look at, say, $750,000. And now what we're going to do is we're going to super crunch millions of data points to show you what the average restaurant is making. It turns out it's $871,000. Now that's all restaurants. So we're talking about everything from fine dining, white tablecloth, to a taco truck. We could go deeper, right? We could look specifically at Italian restaurants. And we can find out that there's more money in chicken parm average and fettuccine alfredo than the average restaurant. Or we could go even deeper and say, hey, I just want to look at pizza. And so you can see here that if you're choosing between, say, a pepperoni and mushroom pizza and more delicate Italian dishes, then you can see that you would actually focus on Italian restaurants. That's if revenue is the only thing that matters to you. Of course, we all have different skill sets. For me, I always wanted to have a coffee shop. And we can actually see the information related to any industry that we want, both in terms of the city, county, metro region, whatever it may be that you're interested in, along with a map that shows you concentrations of business revenue. Now, revenue is only one of the things that we want to see. We also need to understand what the trends are within a given industry. So here we're showing you all of the businesses that have started in the coffee shop category, and you can actually see the trends when businesses are starting. And now we're like, hey, maybe, we're not a national coffee shop. We don't need to know what's happening there, but we could look at specific areas where coffee shops are starting at different times. If you see, again, DVD rentals, you might just see that cascading down as fewer and fewer people open those type of businesses. One of the other things that can be a little bit opaque for small businesses is what is a competitive salary. I think we can all agree that $20,000 may not seem like a lot, but that's actually very competitive for a barista in a coffee shop. And you can see counties where you'd expect to pay more or less in the metro area. And also number of employees. I think we can agree that 8 people is a small business. And you can see that's actually a very small coffee shop. The coffee shops in Newport Richey are actually substantially larger than the average. And so this starts to provide context. We were feeling a little bit down about maybe our revenue. But when we look at the context in which we're operating, even though our revenue is lower, based on the size of our coffee shop in terms of employees, we're actually above average in salary. And that's the unique perspective of SizeUp. This is not generic analysis. It's for you, your business plan, your marketing plan. And the context is through the lens of data to understand how you're performing. So we can look at revenue per capita. We can also look at local turnover. So imagine if you did have that average coffee shop, you'd be losing maybe 4 to 5 people per year that you have to recruit, retrain, whatever it may be. Through the lens of data, let's say you were losing more than that, and it was a source of frustration for you. You actually should expect to lose that amount. So if you're losing less than that, what you may see as a problem is actually testament to the culture, the salary, the product or environment in which people are operating. Also, for small businesses, you have to look at healthcare costs. You don't have necessarily a professional HR team, and you may think that your healthcare costs of $5,000. The state average is $6,763 per person. And we could also look at workers' compensation per $100 of payroll, or we may also want to look at open hours or digital presence. So these are all different ways of looking at how your business is performing. Now, the nice thing about this all is we can actually go ahead and look at this information in a summary view. So it'll bring up an entire dashboard showing you all of the inputs and outputs from your business. So if you start to do scenario editing, you can actually go ahead and say, hey, I thought I was kind of an underachiever in terms of income, but I'm doing really well with 6 employees. Maybe I want to expand. Or 8 employees. Maybe I want to go up to, say, 16. And I would expect to make more money with that increase. So you can then see how increasing the information related to employees can then affect your cost effectiveness, or you can run through other different scenarios. So now you're not at 79%, you're at 49% because you've added more employees. Now, hopefully that will scale up, but it's really helpful if you're running through different scenarios. So we can look at all sorts of things like revenue, employees, salary, all of the key performance indicators for your business, how you're doing against competitors in your specific industry. And that is the first tool of SizeUp Pasco. So the first tool was the My Business tool that shows you how your business is performing. And I was showing you an example of what we call a B2C or business to consumer example, right? It's retail you're selling. But a lot of businesses don't sell directly to consumers. They sell to other businesses. So we can think of something that's happening here. I know it's happening in Florida. I know it's happening here in Texas where I'm based. Which is there are tons of people who are looking for homes, right? During the pandemic, they wanted to move to single family homes. And so let's go ahead and look at, let's look at carpenters, right? So we're going to look at carpenters. We could choose a different part of the county. We can choose, does someone want to type out another city that I can use as an example? Okay, I didn't see anything, so I'm just going to go with Holiday. And so what we'll see is we'll see all of the carpenters here within the city that we've targeted for analysis. Now, who are these carpenters selling to? They're not necessarily selling direct to consumers. Maybe they're a finished carpenter, so they build cabinets and desks and closets and things of that nature. So they might be selling to single family home construction. And so we're going to map all of the companies related to single family home construction. And if you're using this as a prospect list, you can actually go through there and find out all of these businesses related to that. So these are businesses that you might partner with or sell to. Now, if I'm a finished carpenter, obviously I could be doing other things. I might be selling to commercial. Let's look at that. So commercial and office building construction, because if I'm building cabinets, people need those in attorneys' offices or accountants, bookkeepers, things of that nature. And so you can add or subtract as many industries as suits your business plan, your marketing plan, whatever it may be. Now, if you are in fact a carpenter, you can't just create things out of thin air. So you need to know where you're going to get your supplies. So you see your competition here with these little red dots. You see your customers or your potential customers in green, but you also need to know where you're going to get your raw materials, your wood, your nails, things of that nature. So if you see, we can navigate over to the supplier tab here, and we could put in things like hardware stores, right? It's very reasonable to think that you're going to go ahead and go to these type of stores, and you can see the information to it. Here's a Home Depot in Holiday, Florida. You get more information. You can even look at their social media channels. This is really useful if you're looking to find out if they have the product that you need or whether they're in the industry that you're trying to match. Now, this is great if you're just kind of getting a certain amount of product that can be supplied. Maybe you're working on really big projects. That's okay. We can do that too. You could go to lumber wholesale, or you could even go all the way into the mill itself, right? So these are actually manufacturing. Now, the nice thing about that is if you really understand your business or who you want to partner with, it's as simple as going ahead and in the business section, you can type in the name of the business and pin it to your list so you can have custom tools. And as I mentioned, you can take this list, go ahead and click PDF, and what it will do is it will create all the information that you're seeing here online. You can then have it offline. So you could take this report here, your competitors, here your customers or potential customers, and here are all of your suppliers. So there's a question about how to get access to the tool. Let's go ahead and save that to the end because that actually is information that will be provided to you at the end of the session. So I just want to mention that I did in fact see that question. So let me just pause here and ask, are there any specific questions about this tool? And I'll be looking in Q&A and chat for those answers and questions. Okay, I don't see any. So I do want to go ahead and move on to another example just very briefly. So I showed you B2B and I showed you B2C. This tool can be used also for consumers. So let me actually show you what this looks like. I'm just going to clean up the map a little bit. Let's go back into, well, let's look at pizza. So if I was looking just at pizza restaurants, you can also use this for understanding the consumer behaviors. So here we're going to go ahead and just look at the industries that are relative to it, but we can use the map in any category. So it could be pizza, it could be burgers, right? And you can get all that information and you can overlay this with a map. So if we're looking at food and beverages, we could look at food away from home. And let's say that we are only open for dinner or lunch, if that's where we're focused on, we can look at all dining out, which is what we're looking at right now. And we're seeing that concentration, or we could look specifically, say, at dinner or breakfast or whatever it is. So I do want to point out that this tool is available here, but we have an even more sophisticated tool for you to dive really deeply into this data 2 modules over. So let me go ahead, and seeing no questions on the competition tool, let's go to advertising. And then I want to mention there is a good question about creating a business plan. Let's pick that up at the end. It's a longer question to answer, and I want to make sure that we can give that its due time. So as I mentioned, there are 4 modules in SizeUp Pasco. The first is My Business. The second is Competition. The third is Advertising. My Business helps you understand how your business or your prospective business would perform. Competition shows you the spatial relationships between your customers, your competitors, and your supply chain. And advertising helps you understand how to optimize the value of every dollar that you spend on your advertising. The idea of mass media, unless you can afford a Super Bowl ad, is a thing of the past. Now you want to target your very specific audience. So we've looked at B2C and B2B. Let's look at professional services. So I'll take an example that is meaningful to me because I have 2 young daughters. They hate going to the dentist. We could choose another city here. Again, whatever city that you want. Here we go. We'll change locations now. And what we're looking at now is quite literally the Jerry Maguire, Rod Tidwell, show me the money way of thinking about advertising. Where is the most money being spent? Totally legitimate way to think about advertising. But the nice thing about our tool is we have filters. So we can filter based on the characteristics that are most important to you. Now, that is both in terms of the consumer. Here's your demographic characteristics. We can also look at industry. So if you're marketing to other businesses, you may say, oh, I really want to focus on businesses, but I'm focused on businesses that are smaller, right? I'm a small business. I want to market to other small businesses. So you could look at zip codes that have at most 100 employees where that concentration is greater. Maybe you're trying to break into the big time. You might want to focus on businesses that have more employees or focus on revenue. It just depends on the type of industry that you want, because sometimes we have businesses with low employees and high revenue because they're selling very expensive products, while they may, or you have mass market where they're selling lots and lots of products and may have lots of employees. It all depends on what you're talking about. So what we can do with this tool, looking at dentists, I'm going to show you what my dentist, the one who services my daughters, does. He is a family dentist, and he's focused on having Netflix screens on the ceiling, so they're looking up with wireless headphones and watching. And he does nitrous instead of needles. Well, he was just out of working at a dental clinic, out of dental school. So he wanted to have a competitive advantage in terms of what he was doing. So what he wanted to look at was underserved markets. And he thought people would drive farther around to keep their kids from crying, right, by offering these things. So he was doing analysis on 25 miles, and he expected people to pay a little bit more. So household income, he wanted a household income of at least $75,000. And he's a dentist, right? So we need to have at least 5 years of age so you have teeth and not so old that you're losing them. So maybe we go 5 to 49. And what you'll see is we had like over 60 results. Now we're targeting very specific zip codes. And it gives you all of the characteristics that you have identified as critical to your marketing plan or the success of your business. So here are the zip codes that you would want to focus on. Now, this is both online and offline. So if you're online, you can buy your Facebook ads, your Google ads, your Apple News ads, Instagram, whatever it may be. If you're offline, you know that there's grocery stores, you know that there are a ton of other places, billboards, community centers. Depending on your perspective, you can go into the real world, buy bus stop ads or buses going between those places, depending on what you're looking for. And so what you'll see is it will provide this information right here. So you could take this, here are your zip codes, and you'll see that we'll dive in right now. We're going to show you this lowest amount of revenue generated per resident, dentist, 25 miles. Median age between 5 and 49, household income greater than 75,000. So you can hand this to your third-party advertising team, or you can go ahead and create your own account and then advertise in these specific areas for these specific demographics. Now, this is also true if, as I mentioned, you want to focus on business to business. Now, in this case, let's say that you are looking for average revenue. Maybe you are interested in machine shops. And then what you do is you go ahead and reset these demographic filters. And you can see that we have over 22 zip codes right now. But as I mentioned, if I was marketing as a small business to other small businesses, I could either look at average revenue. So at least $1 million. And now we've gone down to 8 zip codes. So I know that these are the specific zip codes that I'd want to target with smaller businesses. Jenny,
Mario, can I just step in real quick just to highlight something important since you're on this subject? I wanted to emphasize on the fact to our attendees that this is not just for startups, that this is also for existing businesses, and it is a great resource and tool that we're putting out there for companies that are of larger size than startups as well. I just wanted to ensure, because it seemed almost like if it's only just for either entrepreneurship or startups, and we just want to ensure that the communication is clear as to who can benefit from this tool.
Absolutely. So I'm showing these examples, but as I mentioned, in the same way that you can go from pizza to Italian to restaurants, we're looking at machine shops right now. But we could look at plastic engravers, right, to plastic materials, synthetic resin manufacturers, plastic foam products. We don't ask you to enter a NAICS or SIC code because we know 95% of businesses don't know what those are. But if you want to look at all of your plastic products manufacturers, you can go ahead and do that too. Or we could even look at plastic injection molding. So again, it depends. If we're looking at plastic manufacturers, we are literally looking at all plastic makers, whereas now we're looking at plastic injection molding. And then if you need someone who just is going to engrave or assemble that, you could go deeper. It's completely flexible based on the type of analysis that you need to do. So I didn't want, and thank you, Jenny, for interrupting to make sure that people understand this, is any industry is covered. Now, obviously, you're in Florida. So we might find out, and I'll point this out, I'm going to go to a category that may not be here. Let's go ahead and go to dairy farms, which I agree is not a super competitive advantage for Florida. But this is really interesting, and I want to show you this. SizeUp is designed to be simple. So we do make some decisions for you. One of them is if we don't have enough statistically valid data for the geography that you're looking at, we will always default to the lowest level that is statistically valid. So while the city may not have dairy farms and the county may not have dairy farms, in the metro area you see here, you actually do have enough. So we'll show you that the average dairy farm in the metro area is making about $500,000. We could even get more specific, aerospace instrument manufacturing. Unfortunately, you actually have that in the metro area as well. But you get my idea. You might find something. I'm going to cheat here. I know that national security generally only happens, there we go, in Washington, D.C. So you can see we will default to the national level. So you don't have to worry about what industry you're in necessarily. We'll always provide the most statistically relevant data for you in the geography that makes sense. Just a little bit about that, and we can look again across multiple categories. We've left time on the Q&A to cover this. So please do in the chat, let me know if there's a specific industry that you want to look at. Let me go ahead and show you the demographics tool before we get to that. So one of the things that I should mention here is the demographic tool is perhaps the most powerful tool on SizeUp Pasco. However, it also requires a certain degree of thoughtfulness and interpretation. So there's 3 different types of analysis that we do here. One is for a place. You could all do it for metro area, and you can choose consumer expenditures or labor force. You've seen this data. You see it all the times on the news. This is what the population is. This is how many businesses. It's interesting, and it's a valid way of thinking about it. Here's the outline of the metro area, for example. You can see the total population. You can see 5-year potential. I think a more pertinent way of looking at information is in a site-specific manner. So you could go ahead and just select any address within the area. We could say do 10 miles, and we could do a consumer expenditures overview. So instead of the outline of the political boundaries, you're going to find out the address within a specific, the information around a specific address. So you can see that information right here, and this is no longer generic analysis. It's specific to this address in this area. And so what you're seeing here is also the information related to the category that matters to you. So if we went ahead and we're looking at, let's see. Well, this is consumer expenditures, and I know retail might not be what you'd focus on. So let me show you a different example. And so you can also see, I'll just mention this very briefly, that you can use minutes as well. So let's say that if we were interested in a 20-minute drive time in demographics, you'll see the information right here. And let's say we were targeting a specific age group. We can go ahead and turn this on, and it will show us a heat map, and we can see where that concentration is. Let me show you kind of a really cool way of looking at this outside of drive time and radius. And that is, if you know your area really well, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off. We actually have a boundary tool. So let's say that you were trying to attract a workforce. So maybe you think you know your area, and they'll come from here, up to here, down the freeway. There's some construction here, you wanna avoid it. We'll go around it, you get the idea. You can create whatever shape you want, and then we'll select labor force report. And it's going to create a report right here on this specific shape. And now you know that within the shape, you have total establishments, 73,000 businesses employing over 500,000 people. These are the size of the businesses. So you can go through all the business information, the types of businesses that are there, if you're targeting outreach to a specific type of business. In this case, let's use the example of I am, again, in construction. So I'm not interested in the businesses. I'm trying to find the employees to power the success of my business. So I'm going to go past all of these 100 construction examples, and I want to look at where my employees are. In the same way that we could look at restaurants, Italian, and pizza, we can look here now, and we can actually see people that are in construction and extraction. We can go deeper, and we can go, hey, I'm not interested in mining, which is only 0.1% of all the employees there. I'm interested in construction. That's 8.86% of all employees, 46,000 people. But I'm not building bridges and things of that nature. I might be building things that aren't heavy construction. So instead of looking at just the 38,000 people, I want to focus on general construction. I can turn this on, and it's going to show me the concentration of where those people are living, both in total. So you can see the concentration that there's 282 people working in general construction here, or I can show you the percentage. So you can target where you want a higher percentage of workers or a higher number in aggregate. The analysis is flexible based on what it is that you want to analyze. So we can see that in this area, while there's not a huge number, the percentage is around 4 to 11% in this area of people working in construction. Now, if I want to dive in even deeper, we just went from the zip code to the block group level. So this is neighborhood information that I can use to target the type of employees, or in the case of consumer expenditures or demographics. Really deep analysis to do that. And based on the labor shed or the trade area that you think is specific to your business or industry. So all of these things together can help paint a picture that can help you make a more optimal decision with how your business is operating. Using the advertising tool, you can look at underserved markets, or you can look at areas that are generating more revenue. And you can say, well, is it because my competitors are there? Or is it because they are not in that area for a specific reason? And you can start to understand the entire context in which your business in your industry with your employees are operating. So this was a quick overview of the tool. We wanted to make sure that we were leaving enough time to go into the tool and look at scenarios or questions that you may have. So I'm going to go ahead and see if there are any questions. Yes, so one of the first ones was what do you have to do before you start using your resources? So the answer is this is freely available on the SizeUp Pasco's on the Pasco ADC website. It's also available at Smart Start. And all you have to do is sign up, and Jenny can probably talk a little bit more about that, or I certainly can navigate to the entry page if that's helpful, Jenny.
We have it on the landing page. We currently have it on the landing page, on the BRE page, and the Smart Start page. So there are different places where people can actually link into through our website and be able to sign up for this. Is a very simple process to navigate, but we are more than able to assist them if they need to. I don't know if you want to share the screen and kind of show. Well, sure. We are on the website of Smart Start, right? Or is this
right?
Pasco? Yeah.
So this is not Pasco, or this is not Smart Start. This is Pasco.
Okay.
But you can see it right here. So all they have to do is just sign up here, and then they'll have full access to the tool. And the same is true with Smart Start as well. All right. And so we'll go ahead and I'll paste these links into the chat so everyone will have them. And so go ahead and visit that site, and you can get started right away. So that was the first question. The second one we had was around how would I use this to create a business plan? So if you ever worked with a local SBDC or an entrepreneurship program, they'll take you through this, and I believe that's also a service that is provided by the Smart Start program. And so you certainly can reach out to them. It's going to depend on the business that you're starting and how you are operating. So for instance, if you wanted to open if you wanted to open up an auto part supplier, for example, you could go ahead and find out more information about what's happening. So you can see that these are the type of information that you'd want to know. How much revenue can you predict? Because that's going to influence how many employees that you're going to want to hire and what the average person working in wholesale auto parts, $42,000, 16 employees, it's about 4 people in the county. So you can see it helps frame that decision. And this is not just for, again, startup businesses. Existing businesses will change their business plan based on changing markets and also help them to optimize or right-size their business. So you can come in and see what the average businesses are doing. So you can take this information, as I mentioned, put in what's relevant to you. You can export it to PDF. And then you could take that information and put it into your business plan. It can help you actually make the argument about why you deserve that loan or how you can attract investors. It's just going to depend. Using the competition tool, you could look at where those other wholesalers are, and you can add or subtract as many industries as you want. So you get the idea. It is going to depend on what you're doing. If you're targeting a certain market, whether it's businesses, so let's say that you're selling parts and supplies to auto dealers, you actually might want to look at where those dealers are making the most money and then try to target those auto dealers in the area. So it's a very flexible tool. The answers can come from the tool, but the questions are going to come from you. And I see a little bit more along the line. So I do want to make sure I'm taking them in order. And I'm glad that you're excited about using the tool. My best answer is to use the tool. And I can't speak about extruded plastics with great knowledge, but the idea sometimes is to take adjacent industries and then see what seems most reliable to you in terms of the data or information that you're looking for. So again, I use the example of coffee shops, and we can look at the data related to coffee shops, but if you're serving food, maybe you're a cafe, maybe you're a diner. and you'd want to compare appropriately. Same thing happens. Are you a plastic manufacturer, or are you just dealing with extruded plastics, or are you just dealing with plastics integration? It just depends. And the beauty of it is you're not paying per search. So you can just go through different industries, or on the competition tool, you can add or subtract as many industries as you want. This is your tool to use for your specific business plan, marketing plan, whatever it may be. So that was one of the questions.
Next question would be, does this reach outside of Pasco?
So yes, fantastic question. So the answer is the tool goes as far as your business needs it to do, but the analysis always starts in Pasco. So let me use an example from the advertising tool. So if you think your trade area is, let's go back to plastics. So here we go. No results for underserved markets in that area, unsurprisingly, because it's only 25 miles. But if your market is nationwide, you can actually go nationwide. And now you're seeing the 47 zip codes that best match the criteria for plastic materials, synthetic resins, and non-vulcanizable elastomers. So as I mentioned, now we're really deep, right? We're not at all plastics. It's a very specific thing. If you were, I use this as an example just because we've seen a lot of this. We nationally, we have a lot of people who have home-based businesses who might be marketing. So let's say that you are making jewelry, okay? So if you were just looking at total revenue, I'm going to clear these filters. Unsurprisingly, if you're just trying to make the most money for jewelry, it's New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Atlanta, Beverly Hills, and San Francisco. If you want to think about it as underserved markets, so these are markets where there's higher consumer spending but lower business revenue in that zip code. You might want to target Jeffersonville, Indiana, Painesville, Ohio, Dublin, Georgia, Avon Park, Florida. It just depends on the type of analysis that you want to do. So you can filter for that. And it's the same thing with the competition tool. If we go to, we'll go to Machine Tools Wholesale. So the idea behind this is you're seeing the closest 10 in that category, but you can keep zooming the map out and you're going to see all of those push pins come in for whatever category that you're looking for. So it just depends. You pan the map, you zoom around, and you focus on what you want to do. And the same thing is true, for instance, on the consumer expenditure side. So if I was looking for food and beverages and food away at home or any other category, if I'm zoomed in, let me go ahead and zoom back in. So now I'm seeing it at the zip code level. As I showed you, you can see it at the block group level. If I zoom out farther, we're going to get counties. And if I zoom out really far, we'll start getting state information. So you just use the map to determine what you think your trade or market area is, and then the map will update with that information. So it's just that simple. Same thing with the demographics. You can go ahead and draw whatever shape that you want with that tool. I think with radius and drive time, the limit is about like 200 miles in 60 minutes. But if you want to go ahead and draw the tool, you can use the within a boundary tool to create the exact market that you're looking at. Okay. And then again, you can always take that information and then export it into paper if you need to put that into your marketing plan or anything else. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yes, I believe so, unless the person, Wayne, do you have any more questions related to that? Just let us know, but let's go to the next question. Can you talk more about finding where there may be gaps and opportunities for using the revenue per capita?
Sure. So I think it's going to depend on what you're looking for. So if you have a specific industry, let me know. I'll go ahead and go back to something that I'm more confident about. So let's go ahead and look at where you may want to validate information using different tools. So if I'm just looking at dentists, so here are all the dentists. Let's actually move over to, we'll go to Newport Richey again. just so there's a little bit. So here are all your dentists here, right? Now, what's important is to go here. Well, this is national. Let's say 20 miles. So we're looking at underserved markets, and here are the results for underserved markets. So you can see the population, what the average revenue is based on the spending. You'd expect to see more. Now, the key thing is you can look at this map now. You can actually target these zip codes, and you can see where there are underserved areas. Now, there may be reasons for that. Oftentimes, certain businesses will cluster together, right? Your dentist will be next to your periodontist, next to your orthodontist. So what you can do is you can go, hey, this is interesting. Why is this area underserved? You can go back to your competition map, and you can start to zoom out and look at those areas to understand the businesses that are there. Maybe they're underserved because there aren't businesses in that area to collect that revenue. Maybe they're underserved because the businesses that are in that area are underperforming. And so you can overlay that information. And in the same thing with the My Business tool, let's look at dentists in Newport Richey. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so you can see how dentists are doing Newport Richey. If we change that over to, so here's the benchmark at the county level, metro area. You can look at it both as a chart view, or you can look at it as a table, and then you could export this and cut this, paste this into your business plan. Let's go over, and you can see that they're making more money here. So you could target different cities based on the benchmarking tool. It just depends on what your particular interest is. And the same thing happens to the demographic tool. If you're a family dentist, maybe I really want to focus on 10 to 19-year-olds. Well, I got news for you. There's more of them here on the western side of the city. As you can see here, there's about 374 to 1,000 versus over here on the just outside the eastern part where there's only 5 to 74. Now that's total numbers, that's aggregate. If we want to look at the percentage, we can actually see that just outside of the city boundaries, the highest percentage, 15 to 20%, is right around here. So different tools can help round out the picture that you're trying to paint for your particular business. All right.
We have another great question. This would be more applicable for like the larger businesses or the businesses that exist. What could be an example that you can give these businesses of how they can benefit from the tool, whether if it's they're expanding or trying to create a new service or product? How can these businesses benefit from the tool overall?
Sure. So I think one of the things that you would want to do is look for if you are an existing business, you know the environment in which you're operating. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you again.
And let's just use the example of a manufacturer.
Sure. So let's look at let me pull one up. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go to a pretty big category, which is manufacturing industries. Okay. So obviously a fairly broad category because we're not focused just on plastics or anything else. But you could identify.
Do you want to narrow it down to a specific company, maybe?
We certainly could.
Would that be more helpful?
You can actually go in here and identify, again, specific ones. So here's manufacturers distributed. So you can go here and enter the name of a specific business, and now you've identified. So maybe this is a competitor. Maybe you want to see what markets they're in. You can type in their name. If you're looking for a specific customer, right? Let's say that you are a manufacturer, but you're looking to expand into, we were looking at extruded plastics, right? Or, so many things, but let's look at textiles. You could actually go in there and identify the customers that you're interested in because they are your existing customers. So you could see if there are.
Really quick, Mario. your screen is showing other things that may not be relevant to be displaying. It has like 3 different screens or windows open.
Okay, let me try this again then.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is that working now? It should just be the browser.
Yes, sir. Now we're
all right. So now everyone knows how busy I am, and but I promise you had my focus this whole time. So what I was mentioning here is you can certainly add as many industries as you want. So here's textile good manufacturing, but you could actually search for those specific businesses. So if you want to use this for prospecting, you certainly can go ahead and look at this business, and you can then pin it, right? So you can create custom lists of those businesses. So you see, these are geographic, right? We're literally expanding out from the center of the analysis that we wanted to do. Here are the first 10 textile manufacturers, and you can keep going out and out further and further deep into Florida. But if you know that this is the company that you want to target, you can go ahead and pin them. And you can create up to 10 pinned lists, export that list, and then you have your target list of manufacturers that you're buying from, selling to, partnering with, whatever it may be. And as you see, we can keep adding to that. So now you see all of the manufacturers, all of the green dots are textile manufacturers. So it just depends on the type of industry that you want, how specific that you want to go into. And then within that, you can even get more specific and say, this business, this is the business I want to sell to, buy from, whatever it may be. So you can do that this way. And the same thing is true with the demographics tool. So if we go into a labor force report, we'll go to Odessa. We can actually go in and say, hey, I'm really interested in the rubber and plastics. Now, mind you, only one business in that city. But if you zoom out, now you're going to start to see more information. So now you're seeing concentrations of where those manufacturers are. You can keep zooming out and get that information by zip code, county, or state level. So you just use the map to focus on what you think that trade area or whatever may be interested in. So hopefully that answered the question. Let me know if I'm going through right now. So expanding into, so this is sort of a related question. For an existing business, how would you expand into a new product, service, or expanding into a new market? I think that's where it's really good to switch levels, if that makes sense. So we talked about this a little bit about how you can use the benchmarking tool. And I use the example of restaurants, Italian, and then pizza. The same thing happens. We're looking at all manufacturing. It's about 6 million. So if we go to plastics, you can look at then plastics, and then you want to get even more specific, you can get into foam, right? Plastic foam. And the same is true of anything. Let's say that you're looking at frozen specialties. That's great. Maybe you're just an ice cream store right now, but you want to start making your own ice cream, like Jenny's Ice Cream did coming out of Columbus. I don't know if you guys have tried that, but that started as a scoop shop. And now I'm buying that. I used to have to go to Columbus to have that. And now I can get it here in Austin. So right now we're at ice cream parlors. But if you get the idea, we can go all the way to manufacturing or things along that line. So you can move up and down levels to see what those opportunities are and the revenue associated with them. Or you can go over to the competition tool to find out more information about those businesses. So I hope that is a helpful idea in terms of how you can do that. But we'll go ahead and see if it looks like that answered the question. So I'm going to pop back to the chat and see if I missed anything. If anyone else wants to help out, I don't see any more questions. And I try to be thorough, but I can't believe there's not another burning question out there. Okay. any sneak peek on upcoming updates? So the answer is yes. We are constantly improving the data and the application. So some of the new things that are upcoming are going to be about women-owned, minority-owned businesses. Presently, and I can show this to you, it's not queryable. What I mean for that is you can't search for it specifically. I'm going to cheat here just a little bit because I know some of the categories, and I'm hopefully I'm just sharing my screen here. So let's go to beauty salons. There we go, second one. So what you can see is right now we do, and this is something that we should probably talk about. We license data from hundreds of different sources. We put some together. Some of it comes from the government. But right now we have the license to show this information, whether or not a business is minority or woman owned. We don't have the license to let you search for it. We're working on that. We're also looking for certified veteran-owned businesses. So if those are businesses that you want to support, partner with, we will have that. Right now, you can actually search by clicking on the actual individual business information and get that information. And we have a couple of more exciting things going out. One of them happening on social media, so you can understand the type of social media channels that people are using to advertise, along with some other information. So the information, and if we have time, we have 4 minutes. Let me share a different screen with you. This question usually comes up, but I think you guys were so excited, you were ready to just dive right in. So let me just share. And now I'm a little frightened that I'm sharing the right screen. So if you guys can just give me a head nod if you're seeing a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, this is sort of confidential data, but we tend to think of our applications having different buckets of data. And so the ones that you're probably going to be interested in are industry, demographic, and geographic data. So the industry data or firmographic data, those are all of the individual business points that you saw, right? And all of that information is updated every 3 months. So you have a reason to come back and visit the application because businesses are going to close, new businesses are going to open, the amount of revenue that's being generated by businesses in the industry, that's all going to change. It comes from hundreds of data sources. As you know, if you've tried to get a mortgage, right? There's more than one group selling that. We aggregate that information and then we always show it at, as I showed you earlier, the most statistically valid level available. The demographic information comes from the government, the Census Bureau, economic analysis, labor. So that's where we provide turnover data, salary, workers' comp, things of that nature. And then the geographic data is Google Maps as a base layer, but then we overlay our proprietary data on top of it. So all of that information is updated as frequently as possible. It is about 3 to 6 months behind. So what I mean by that is that a new business opens up. It's not like that day it's on our tool. It does take about 3 to 6 months to get updated. And then we do updates quarterly. So I hope that answers the question about the source and relevance of the data for you. And of course, there's a support button there. So if you have any questions, you can always click there. We partner with the same base level data providers that are on Google Maps, Apple, Yelp. So if you submit an update to us, we don't sell it. We don't do anything other than provide it to our partners, and then they update their information accordingly. I can tell you with one of them, they want to see a utility bill. With another one, they just want to talk to a live human on the phone. So they all have their own policies and procedures, but it can help you get your new business listed or your existing business updated faster than trying to go multiple places. So if we can help you in that way, please let us know. Otherwise, I'm just so grateful that you invested time to learn about the tool. And I'm really excited to have all of you use it and get your feedback so we can continue to partner with Pasco EDC to continue to give you the tools necessary to power your success. Thank you all so much. Everyone stay safe. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Mario. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.